So cool.
Hi there. Barry and I are going to talk about a very potentially, the word just
Provocative.
left. Yes, controversial and provocative subject today. Dating multiple partners at the same time and the do's and don'ts about it. So
Yes.
hopefully that got your attention because people seem to have a lot of feelings about it. Oh, there goes my earring.
Oh,
So this is the Let's Talk Dating show with Christine and Barry. Silvero, put up the other part. You have to put up the other part. Thank you. The new streamingnetwork.com. You know, I need the cheat sheet, you guys. I'll be perfectly transparent about that. WGSN-DB Going Solo Network, radio, TV, and podcast number one singles talk network. And this is Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry. Hi, Barry.
Hi, Christine. It's like I'm thinking, by now you have it repeated so many times, you'll have it memorized by now. But Selby.
No, the way I feel is, do I have to remember this? No, because you'll put it up for me. But maybe I used to write it out and then he started putting it up. So then I didn't write it. You think I would just be able to say it, but not always.
It is what it is. So
My head's
today's
already in the show. Yes.
indeed, yes. So speaking of which, today's show, let's talk.
Yes. Today's show, we're going to talk about the good and the bad and the ugly and the do's and the don'ts about in the beginning. We're going to be really clear about in the beginning when you're just starting to get to know somebody, not after you've made a commitment. We'll talk about that too. But generally, this subject is couched in you meet new people and you go out with more than one person at the same time while you're all still just getting to know each other. That's
Yeah.
the bottom line about what the whole, if we put the definition under this title, that's what it would be, right, Barry?
Yeah, because the way we talk about dating really is the precursor to relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say you're dating somebody, it's like, no, we mean that's a relationship if you're committed to one person. So this is what, before that, when you're dating multiple partners, the do's and don'ts, that's the title of the episode. But it's really what we're talking about here is what is it like, what works, what doesn't work, what's expected, and also what maybe you don't want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So the benefits I found for me personally, and I keep hearing back from my clients who will do this, who will go out with more than one person in the beginning. You're just starting your dating journey. You'll meet a couple different people. You'll go out with a couple different people. One of the top two I see the benefits are you don't want to jump in and get all emotionally involved quite as quickly if you really are seeing another person at the same time in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And you also, it is there, and you also get a chance to compare and contrast and get different responses to your same questions and to have a chance to see how your reaction to them is when you ask your questions and what their reaction is to you when you ask the questions, and do they ask different questions. That it's a really nice way that if you're going to go do anything and you want to have some comparisons just to make sure that you're making the right decision for you.
Mm-hmm. The thing is, and I know I don't want to jump too far ahead because it's like seriously, like just jump right into the middle of the list. But the thing about yeah, because the things with dating, there are many viewpoints, just to be upfront about choice of how we do this. And one way of looking at this is that when you date multiple partners, you're not as invested. So it can be safer to date multiple people so you can really be keeping your options open and being more fluid and flexible, so to speak. But at the same time, is that the right way to approach it? Again, that's why we're talking about the do's and don'ts. This can be, there's plus some, there's swings and roundabouts in the sense. There's plus and minuses where things do work, things don't work. So we're going to break that down in this conversation for sure.
Yes. So there's a word out there in the dating world called, they name it a serial dater.
Mm-hmm.
And I've asked a number of people what their personal definitions are, because I thought about what I would think that meant. But it was interesting. They were some variety that the people who had a very negative feeling about that, because that's what they really meant, was somebody who only dates a bunch of people at once and isn't really interested in settling down and only wants to have casual relationships. So serial sounds terrible because, there's a lot of like serial killer people that starts out as a bad meaning. So this is not what we're talking about. And there is a place for that. There's a whole pocket of women that really don't want a committed relationship with a man. They want to have casual relationships with maybe more than one man. They like to have dinner with a few people. They like to have movies. They want to go on vacation. They might even have friends with benefits or casual sex. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is generally for people who ultimately want to be in a permanent, committed, monogamous relationship with somebody else, whether you're going to live together or live apart or get married. Your goal in this first part of the process is to find your forever partner. You're not looking for multiple casual people in the long term. Your long-term plan is one person. So
Right.
trying to put those in the same bucket doesn't fit this conversation. They're really very different buckets. And viva la difference, the people that want casual and want to only date a bunch of people. That's why I tell people in the beginning, when you have your first couple meetings with somebody, to say, this is my ultimate goal. What's yours? Not necessarily with you or with me, because we don't know each other yet, but that's why I'm here. I'm here looking for a forever partner. And then we can talk about what that means to me and you. But if you're really looking for casual, please say that too, because the person that's looking for something permanent, you're not a match if you really do want to stay casual.
Yeah. The whole thing about with dating is to get in a lot of ways to know what it is that you want yourself.
Yep.
At the same time, you want to be transparent with the people you're with, so you can hopefully give them the understanding of what they want to get as well. Because the reality is, you might find yourself matching up, but you might find the other person has no desire to play the game the way you're playing and wants to choose something separately. The thing with dating multiple partners, and this is purely personal, is that dating multiple partners can be really challenging to remember who I said what to. So I'm personally of the viewpoint that dating sequentially, dating sequentially, let's clarify that, has a benefit, because it's like, then I know who I'm talking to. Because the challenge can be, unless, this is all about for me, my experience, it may be true for anybody else, but I think it's true for a lot of men, frankly, is that to keep track of so many different people we're talking to and who we said what to can make it very challenging. This is why I don't believe in cheating either, because the same thing. It's like you can't keep remember who you said what to. But no, back to the multiple dating partners. So unless you have a note for each person you go on dates with, after you have a date, what do I tell them? So what do I talk to them about? So I know for next time who it is I'm talking to. Because if I'm dating 3 different women, remembering one said they had children of this age, one said they went to school here, and the other one said they lived over that country. If I get them mixed up, it's not going to sound very good. So the dating multiple partners thing has a logistical challenge to it too, for those of us who don't necessarily keep track of everything in great detail.
Yep. So in my world, because I did start using online dating in 2001, and I was talking to and then going out with multiple men, I did a Word document for each one of them. And I said whether or not I sent them my story through the dating app, because I'd written something out, because tell me about yourself. I didn't want to type it over and over all the time, but I didn't want to send it a second time if they said, tell me more, because they'd already sent it. And I would take, their ex-wives and their children and their animals. I just took lots of notes. So then I have mentioned a couple of times that I have a client that's now been in a relationship it's a little over a year. And year and a half ago, or closer to 2 years maybe, we started working together. And he was the first man that sent me this Google spreadsheet. And I was in awe. So he put all the traits that he was looking for, that we had come up with in all of our homework and our conversations. And then as he met different women, he would put their names down the left side of it. And then with each conversation, he would put in how much he had learned percentage-wise of that thing and how much more he wanted to learn. And then he had a whole notes section for each person with all the kinds of notes that I just talked about. And what's really amazing was every week when we would talk, you could see that people had run up against this is all they have in this category for him. It wasn't that there was anything lacking in them in a person. People get all annoyed when I put it this way, but I'm going to say it really clearly. He thought they were really great people. They just weren't for each other. Either he wasn't for them or they weren't for him, because they didn't have enough of one of your things, Barry, about the travel thirst, that they didn't have that, or they didn't have weren't interested in having a relationship with their children or his children. So he knew these things he needed to find out, and he would keep watching how much he would learn about them. And he did it in a percentage amount. And there were times when there's going to be no more, and I really need more of that. So they'd drop off the list. He was very gracious when he'd say, no, thank you. And then a new person would arrive. And he did keep track of more people than I'd ever kept track of in my life, but it worked really well for him. And I said, are you ever worried? And he said, no, I'm just really careful. I always look at everything before I see. And then I said, and how do you do if you're communicating like text? And he goes, that's the hardest thing, to just be so, he can't do anything else but that at the moment. And I know there's women out there that are going to make terrible faces and think he's a terrible man, but the woman he's been with now for a little over a year is quite enamored with him, and they're in a very committed, lovely relationship. And this is how he got there. So it's not for everybody, as you've said, and maybe not keeping track of quite a few at a time. Jerry and I just suggesting two is not unmanageable. 2 is not horrible. And it's not 2 for that long. That's the thing. If you really are clear about what you need and want, and you ask, and you listen, and they tell you, a front runner happens pretty quickly. I mean, it doesn't take months and months and months if you're being honest and open.
Yeah. It is a sorting. I mean, in a lot of ways, what we look at dating as being is a sorting process. It's ideally a fairly express way of doing it, in the sense that you're not going to date 7 people for months at a time to get to know which one's which. It's going to be pretty quick, as you said, and I agree with that totally. And the thing that I like about it is that it is a methodology of refining and clarifying what you want. Because one thing that came up to me was, if you're dating lots of different women, partners, people, possibilities, is after a while, if you say the same thing to each one of them, you're going to get bored with your own story, let alone what they're going to say. So you want to keep your own perception fresh and exciting and entertaining as well, because you're going to be on these different dates. And if you're going on 10, 15 different dates with different women, that's from a male point of view, from a straight male point of view, just to qualify everything, and you're doing this thing where you want to date and date and date to find the right one, if you say the same introductions each and every one of them, you're going to get bored completely, like just lifeless, trying to keep up with making it entertaining. So what you say is going to change as much as you're going to hear from the other people. And the thing that I love also is, and I'm not necessarily talking from a mechanistic point of view, but as I said before about how to keep track of what you said to who, having some sort of tracking methodology, whether it's a spreadsheet or a notes app or a voice notes or just doodling on a notepad, somewhere keeping track of what experience I have with each one of them. Yes, it helps me refine my search, but also keeps track of I don't repeat myself to the same person or presume things about them that I didn't hear from them. So the dating multiple partners, unless you have unless you're like a waiter in a restaurant where you have the ability to memorize 7 things at once, which some people can, it's really hard to do when you're dating multiple partners. So it doesn't hurt to lean on support systems to keep track of what you've said and what you've heard. So that way you can keep aligned up with what you're choosing. Because the other part as well is, if you are dating multiple partners, finding out who is the most likely partner to be for you, it's good to be absolutely lined up with that information. So having the information about the person you've written down and then seeing them again locks it in more easily. Whereas if you don't keep track of who's who, you might commit to somebody you didn't hear something from, and then it gets very confusing. So the clarity you provide yourself by having some sort of note methodology, I think, is almost a must-have when it comes to dating multiple partners.
I highly recommend it. I certainly came in handy for me, and it's so then I've started suggesting it to the other men, because the women weren't as interested in the spreadsheet. They were more open to the notes, and they liked it. And they all came up with their different versions, and so they'd send them to me, and I just go, wow. So that's the other thing, that when you allow yourself to be yourself, which is even more helpful when you're seeing more than one person, because that's one of the hardest things for people to do. I mean, really hard, is when you're just concentrating on one person, you can get too close too fast. You can start caring too much too quickly. And even though you think that's what I really want, and I want that to happen, it's when we stop being our most authentic self, and we stop asking the really hard questions, and we stop sharing the things about us that we think, oh, what if they don't like it? Well, it'd be really good to know in the early stages if they don't like it. And to be really clear about the things you need to do with each of these people, even if certainly that was the other thing, because he lives in a town where everybody knows each other. And so to figure out different places to take everybody he had to do that on this spreadsheet too.
Yeah.
With the same end though, how were they with the wait staff? How were they if you went for a walk? Were they interested in going to the concerts in the park? That to do this variety of things to keep seeing. The other thing is that you go, oh, wow, look at this cool question they asked me. I'm going to ask that the other person because it really was interesting information. That it's a nice way to research if you can keep because I hear in my head people go, when I say these things, you're being trite and you're being surface and, you're not wanting to get serious. And all these people that I have coached that have done this, including me, we are very serious about finding a forever partner. That is the part that I will push back every time when somebody says you're not serious if you're doing that. I am so serious. That's why I'm doing it.
Exactly.
I want to make sure it's the right person. And it's really interesting when I can see somebody thinking, yeah, maybe, and then do the switch. And it's not for everybody. I am never going to say it's for everybody, but for the people who do it, I've never had anybody have a bad experience. And I've heard all the bad experiences about people who don't, who stick with one person. And then 6 months later, oh my gosh, there's the thing I never asked or I never shared or I never told because you got too close too quickly.
Yeah. And we talked about in previous episodes about getting clear about what you want and making that clear, that list, that refinements, when you meet somebody, they fit or they don't fit. And so if you're dating multiple partners, one of the benefits of having that understanding yourself about what you really want and you know what you really want is you can eliminate people off that list, of that selection. It's almost like competing and getting through the quarterfinals, like getting people sorted out so you can let go of those people because they're not going to fit for you. And as you said earlier, the same thing is true. It's not about them being wrong. It's about what you want for yourself. So you know what you're choosing for. And because most people want to be in a monogamous relationship with one person, which we've also talked about before. So you don't want to date you don't want to be in 7 different relationships. So you want to be really clear who doesn't fit so you can make room for the one that does. And that's kind of the biggest part of this. Is dating multiple partners is really about refining down to that one that you want to be with in relationship.
Yeah. And you let them go. You release them. You release yourself and you release them to now find the better partner for you. And if you approach it as we're here for a reason, there's some reason that we've met each other. There's some reason that we're going to make each other better for each other, maybe, or at least for the next person because of our experiences together. And it's been really fun to have my clients come back to me with, they thought so too. They just knew after this, we really weren't the right people. And we parted on such good terms because boy, do you hope that's going to happen because it doesn't always, because somebody really is caring more than the other and you have to say, no, thank you. And it's hard. And I've seen it more when you've done it this way because they saw the reasons. Oh yeah, really, we're not. I see that. We're not meshing in this really important way to both of us. Because if you get all carried away and they get all carried away and you haven't really done this important conversation stuff, it's heart-wrenching to say goodbye.
Absolutely. But we're going to take a break in a second. So you want to do the quick wrap up before we get there. So we're not saying goodbye. We're just going to see a little commercial break and we'll be right back. But in the meantime, you want to do a quick offer of what you can provide people same style after you.
Thank you, Barry. Because wow, I'm hoping you're like, you wouldn't call and argue with us. We'll be fine with that too and tell us we're full of beans. So the way to do that, if you want to talk to me about why you think this is a great idea, or you think it's a terrible idea, is to go to my website, which is www.theperfectcatch.com. Scroll to the middle of the screen and click on the What's Holding You Back from Love questionnaire. It's 10 brief questions. Then you have a link to my calendar and you can schedule a complimentary conversation with me to talk about this or anything else that you want. And then you also can go send me a personal private email at Christine@theperfectcatch.com. And how would people reach you, Barry?
Similarly, I have a website with just my calendar attachment on it as well. So you go to my site, which is barryselby.com. And at the top of the screen on my site, there is a button that is like, let's chat, have a conversation. Click on that button, takes you my calendar. And my question, I think, is actually 13 questions, or maybe a bit more than that. Some are long, some are short, so it's a mixture of choice. It's just my version. So you fill out the questionnaire, get on my calendar and we schedule a 20-minute complimentary chat between me and you to navigate where you are and where you want to go, and if I can help you with that. You can also send me a direct email at barry@selby.com if you have any questions, or you reach out for some other reasons, and we'll tell you about all the other stuff at the end of the show.
And we'll be right back after this short break for a commercial for this beautiful station that broadcasts our podcast for us. Back in a couple minutes.
See you shortly.
Bye. Silly me, it's only 30 seconds. Time flies when you're having fun. So today on Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry, we're talking about dating multiple partners, do and don'ts. And I'm going to say it again. It's when you're very first beginning, you're just meeting new people, and you're hopefully going out with more than one person at a time, at least two, to just compare and contrast and get really clear about talking about who you are. It's really good practice to talk to new people. It's good practice for them to talk to you and to clearly say the small, the beginning things about this is what I'm really looking for. And this is what's really important to me in traits in another person. And here's some things about me too. And tell me about you. I mean, it's a lost art, if anything, to come out and be more social with people. And so talking to more than one person at a time, emailing, texting, talking on the phone, and in person, Barry and I highly recommend it.
Yes. The thing that I know is going to be somebody's mind think about this is like, how could someone want to go out with me and 7 other people at the same time? They're so special. It's like, well, let's be clear about this. You want to make sure the person who goes out with you wants to be with you. And one way they find out if that's true or not is by going with other people. Because by contrast, they know you're the right one. So if you have a certain disdain or upset about somebody seeing other people besides you in the first dating, you want to get your head in order, because frankly, you want to do the same thing they're doing as well. The early dating process, the first few weeks, first few times of meeting people and getting to know people, especially if you haven't dated for a while, if you come out of a long-term relationship and you want to start dating again, you want to get basically like training wheels. You want to get really stable in what you're doing and really find the right person. Because if you just go out with the first person you meet and that's the one you want to be with, and then 3 to 6 months in the relationship, you realize you made a totally horrible mistake, you're going to have more regret and you'll be wasting time. So dating multiple partners up front is a wise choice to do when you do it the right way. And as we talked about before the break, about keeping track of what you said, what you didn't say, what you wanted to know, what you must have, all these qualifications. And we talked in previous episodes many times about red flags, green flags, and everything in between. Take all that stuff with you when you go on dates, because you'll get to refine your search and verify or eliminate those people who don't fit what you're looking for very quickly and easily, which means you'll then get past the multiple partners to the one partner.
Mm-hmm. Quickly. It's surprising. Yes. People push back for longer than it really will take to find the person if you'd relax about it. Mm-hmm. Because all the fuss gets in the way. All the fuss is kind of distracting, I found, with the people who want to push back. I go, okay, push back for a while and see, does it, and then just try this. Just try it for a couple weeks. And they go, oh yeah, it didn't feel bad, because they feel like they're cheating. Even the person that's doing it, you feel like you're cheating, you're feeling like you're disloyal, because that's the other piece of it. I don't tell, and I don't ask. And that's a really challenging thing for some people. Well, I think I should tell them why. I've had a few, not very often, but I'll have a man ask me after we've gone out a couple times, are you seeing other people? And my answer is, yes, I hope you are too. And they're most of the time very shocked, because I want us both to find the person that's right for us. And how will we know if we haven't done a little comparing? I mean, generally, and I'm talking about tomatoes all the time, but it takes it out of your heart. You go up to the tomato counter, and I don't see people just generally go pick up the first 5 tomatoes. They squeeze and they look and they turn around, and they're going to pick 5, but they're going to pick them from different parts of the bin, because you've compared and contrasted. How much of a, do I need some that are really ripe, some that aren't not ripe at all? And how do I know till I've squished a tomato? So don't take offense, ladies. I really am being as benign as I can with this subject. For you could now say, gosh, I really didn't know I would like this kind of person till now I'm sitting in front of them. Or I really didn't know I wouldn't like this. And I now have a thing to add to my list that I didn't know I didn't want until I now had it in front of me. And now I'm going to appreciate the next person even more because they're not that, or there's this new thing. The other thing that, oh, you probably have something to say about that, because I had another thing I was going to say.
No, go, keep going. I love it. Some other things is a good analogy to use. So please go forward.
Thank you. The other thing I was saying is there's so many people that go, I wear my heart on my sleeve. I just jump into the relationship. Well, you're the people that really need to multi-date, because whoever made us, we crawled out of the ocean or we came out of somebody's rib, whoever made us put our heart way behind these big old ribs, safe, not out here where anybody could bang it, put it back where it belongs. And my new thing I've been saying is date from the neck up. Stay up in your head, stay logical, stay conscious, stay clear about what you're doing, because as soon as you involve from the neck down, we go into the hormone fog and we have all these emotions. So at least if your heart's still, it's under you where your neck is. So stay up here and be logical and reasonable and rational. And then you'll have an idea of if they're worth it, if it's safe to now involve your heart with somebody else. Because until you've done this process, you haven't really vetted them. And if you just jump in with both feet, here I am, I'm wonderful, let's see if you're wonderful too. It's not that it can't work, but the percentage is so minuscule. Dr. Laura always says, if you got on a plane and you knew the percentage was this much that you'd get there safely, you probably wouldn't get on a plane. So why date that way? If you think the percentage, yes, it happens to a very tiny, don't do it that way. Do it this way. Because even the people that had things happen fast, when I've asked them if it took a while, would you be fine? They said, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. One way I put it is almost like saying that when you date multiple partners, you're doing a greater service to your future partner, because you're actually spending the time to really clarify what doesn't fit you, doesn't line up for you. So when you find them, you'll know and they'll know. And so for both partners to date multiple people is to really vet, verify, and clarify what matches and what doesn't match. As I said before the break, if you hadn't already done this work and looked at previous episodes where we talked about the red flags and green flags and all the different things we want to have in a relationship, it's good to have that list up front. And if you start making a list now, it's not too late to start. But understand when you go out on all these different dates with non-matching partners, your red flag list is going to grow strong really quickly. So knowing that you're dating more partners is really a process of elimination. And just to qualify what we said earlier in the show, dating multiple partners does not mean necessarily sleeping around. I mean, for some people, that's what works for them. But reality is, as you said, like dating from the neck up, if you're not involving your hormones, your sex organs, and your heart in your dating process, you can be more observant and witnessing and able to see if the person is a match. Yes, it can feel very clinical, but it's also, you can, at the same time that you go on dates with somebody and get to know that person, you can feel when that person feels good to you or doesn't feel good to you. You don't have to do anything about it. It's more about just saying, okay, good, that fits. Put that to the side, get back to the list, get back to what you know, because you really want to verify, because it's easy to fall in lust with somebody. I know, I've done it many times, just to be transparent. Yes, it's kind of, I think everybody has. So recognizing that's a choice, but it's not necessarily the ideal result. Because again, if you're looking to be in a healthy relationship that's going to be longer term based, you want to verify up front, this is a good choice to be, not just because you were great in the sack together, even though it's a good important part. It's one of many parts though.
Such a good point. So many good points, Barry, because that's the thing. When I've talked about how each of the people that I've coached that have done it this way, there's always a front runner. So then when you decide, okay, I want to concentrate on them, I'm still not exactly sure I want to spend the rest of my life with them. They sure do have a lot of the qualities that I want. The percentages are really high. They're out front of everybody else. Okay, I'm going to concentrate on, now I am going to concentrate on one person. And then you say it to them, I'd really like to only date you. And what do you think about that? I'd like to have a monogamous, committed relationship with you. We could talk more first about now entering a physical relationship. And then you make a commitment. You make a monogamous commitment that you're only going to go out with them. You're only going to have sex with them. And if that changes, you need to tell them. This is when you have to say something. If there's really something else that comes up, somebody else catches your fancy. It's not happened much, but certainly know of it. But before that, no, I would just assume not know and not tell. So the whole thing from the service, right? I don't want to know and I don't want to tell until I'm ready or they're ready. And it is really a brave thing to say out loud, I'd like to only date you, and have them say, I'm not ready yet. I mean, it's very brave, but if that's how you're feeling, then practice saying it and be brave. Put on your Wonder Woman or Superman boots and say it out loud, because being brave in relationships will get you a long ways into your committed relationship, because there's hard things that you're going to have to say all throughout your relationship, and you need to practice now.
Yeah. And something else I want to say to this too is when you date multiple people, you do go on different dates when first time dates and maybe second dates with multiple different partners, you become less needy. One of the challenges in dating that happens a lot of times is when you start coming across the desperate energy and needy energy where you want to be with somebody, which is very repellent, just to be clear. But if you're dating multiple people, there's less likelihood of that happening because you now see you have an abundance of choices. And it sounds simple to say it that way, but the reality is your body starts to relax when it knows there are multiple options out there. And it's true for men and for women. So having the understanding that when you're out exploring different dates and different people, you can be less addicted to or pulled into that need to have some level of fulfillment that is basic. Again, moving into more above the neck, so to speak. It gives you a chance to really observe and know what is working for you. I said earlier about the red flags. It's also good to you start seeing, okay, that works for me. This value, this way of thinking works for me. It's good to have that understanding, because again, these get added to your spreadsheet or whatever you're working with to really clarify what lines up for you. And yes, spreadsheets and sex do go together in one way, shape, or form in this conversation, but it helps to have one done before you do the other.
So yeah, it's one of the things that people say, well, will they ever make a decision? If in fact they now have started in the beginning saying, I'm looking for a committed relationship, I really want one partner, yes, they will. They absolutely will. I've not had anybody not find a person. And oh shoot, I had two thoughts. I don't remember the other, from something that you said about
the spreadsheet, about sex, about
you always want to talk about sex.
Being desperate.
Desperate, yes. There's a scarcity mind. Thank you. That was perfect. There's such a scarcity mindset out.
Yeah.
I hear it more from women than men. There's no good men. There's no men. They're all taken. All the good ones are married. No, really not. And if you date more than one at a time, the odds are in your favor that yes, maybe there's one that isn't. There's jerks out there, men and women that are jerks. Most of them are nice, trying their best. They're just not for you. But like, oh, there are people. And if you're looking for more than one person instead of that person, you will see more of the abundance. So if anything, this will help you stop feeling so there's nobody. There's never going to be any for me. I should just give up. No, there's lots. Really, I'm telling you, there's lots.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a psychological mind game in a way. But the reality is you start to shift energetically and you become a different person when you're out on dates, when you know there's abundance out there. It's a simple thing. And yet the joy of that, the power of that is such a useful resource to lean into, because it's so sometimes hard to avoid feeling desperate when you're out with somebody who you find attractive. Again, getting your heart off the sleeve and getting your mind out of the gutter is being with somebody who's new and you get so excited about them and then across so ineffectively and so badly that nothing actually gets done. So to date multiple partners can take that pressure off. And so when you're with somebody you really like, so you can, in a sense, spread your energy so you're not so focused and so overwhelming to that one person. And again, this sounds like a mind game, but it really does work as a methodology to keep yourself detached. And so when you do find that one person, it's a much more natural and graceful way of approaching, because you want to put you won't have energy in one basket yet.
Because there's nothing natural or graceful about desperate and lonely, right?
Correct. Maybe
if you feel scarcity, how could you not feel desperate and lonely? Really, there's no way not to. I mean, if you think there's no food, you're going to feel desperate for food. If you think there's no available partners, you're going to feel desperate for a partner. So if you think, oh, there's an abundance and I can go out with more than one, wow, it'll help you, as Barry has said so eloquently, feel more abundant, feel more desirable, feel more that you have a chance to compare and contrast and get a chance to meet a variety of people. The other thing that it's helped people do is, even if it wasn't a partner, they found themselves being a little more social at events. Even if it wasn't somebody that they would be interested in, they found themselves feeling more open about talking. Because I'm not just focused on looking for this person. I'm talking to multiple people, even at a party, even at a meetup thing. It's had some long-ranging benefits. It really has, when people stop feeling so clamped down about it.
I know for myself, it's a personal thing again, is that when I have multiple options available to me, I feel much more relaxed, more comfortable. And frankly, I get more noticed that way. And I know this, and I've talked about this before in other conversations about how I think it's true for men. Yeah, it's true for men and for women, both genders in this role, is when you are feeling, well, I use the word desperate in the sense of your search for partnership, it telegraphs your intent to somebody in a negative way. So you won't be seen in your most attractive and relaxed method or appearance. You'll be broadcasting a desperate energy, which is very unattractive. So the dating multiple partners, again, a lot of people poo-poo it and say, oh, no, it's good. You find the right one, you're going to be done with it. It's like, well, even if you work with a matchmaker, having multiple partners that you meet is going to help you be less negatively wired or telegraphing your negative emotions so people see you more naturally. Because again, desperation isn't pretty and it's not healthy. So to have the wherewithal, yes, you might be able to do it if you've got great skill and working in self-management, that you don't feel that way when you're just on one person. But for most people, it's like it's tempting to get fixated on that one person. So the idea of having multiple partners alleviates that need and alleviates that pressure, so you don't feel that unconscious drag to try and be that way with somebody. So yes, this is why it works so well.
And a desperate person will often attract a desperate person, and
that's true too. Yes,
it's for either person.
Mm-hmm.
So I imagine there's been lots of faces and words and thoughts and comments out there when you have listened to this, because I certainly, I'm sure you do, get lots of pushback and comments and how could I, and I couldn't, and I don't want to date. I really don't want to date somebody that's dating other people. So we'd be happy to have a conversation about it and have you tell us how wrong we are. Just start out with how wrong we are. I'm fine with that conversation too.
Yep.
So if you'd like to have a conversation with me, as I mentioned before, please go to my website, which is www.theperfectcatch.com. Scroll to the middle of the page to the What's Holding You Back questionnaire. Click on that, answer some brief questions. The next place it'll take you is my online calendar, and you can schedule a confidential, complimentary conversation with me, and we'll talk about this. You can also send me a personal private email at Christine@theperfectcatch.com. If you go to the bottom of my website, you will see all my social media links, and you can jump on them and follow me on Facebook and LinkedIn and Pinterest and YouTube and Instagram and Twitter. And on YouTube, you can see all the all the podcasts that we've done so far, the ones that Barry and I've done, and some others that I did on my own. And you can also join my mailing list. And at the top, you can click on my ebook, which is free. It's a very brief little dating book that has lots of interesting chapters. You can hop around. And I just love to hear, as your response, what you thought about it. What did you learn? Mm-hmm. So Barry, tell people how to get a hold of you.
Well, similar to Christine, again, like I said at that break, you go to my website, which is barryselby.com. Top of the screen is a link to get my calendar to have a conversation with me as well. At the bottom of my homepage of my website, you can join my email list just to get a replay of this sent to you every week. I send emails about what I'm working on, new offerings, new courses, and replay of the show every week in the video format. At the middle of the screen is one of my 2 quizzes. I have a relationship readiness assessment because, frankly, before you even start going on dates with multiple partners, are you ready for a relationship? So take my quiz. It's in the middle of the screen on the homepage of my website, which will really give you some perspective on how prepared and how ready you are for the next relationship. I have a second quiz, which is not available on a button. You have to go directly to it, which is barryselby.com/self quiz, which is a self-relationship assessment. Basically, when you look in the mirror, how do you see yourself? What's a relationship to have with yourself? And it's one of my favorite things for people to go to because it really gives them a deep dive into their own relationship with themselves. Again, barryselby.com/self quiz. So I recommend taking that. I have a book as well. It's on my website, but you go to Amazon and get it there as well. But if you go to barryselby.com/book, it's all under my site. Barry Selby this, Barry Selby that. But barryselby.com/book, You can check my book out there. There's also an audio interview that's done by 2 AI hosts that is a review of my book. It's pretty accurate because I gave them my book to look at. It's about a 12-minute conversation. So if you want to get a preview of my book, go listen to the audio clip on the book page, because it'll give you a perspective on what my book's about, and you decide if you want to buy it or not. So that's a little preview for you. You can find me all over my social media. So my name, Barry Selby, is true on YouTube, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Pinterest, and on Blue Sky. And it's the real Barry Selby on Instagram and on Threads. And basically on YouTube, as Christine said, same as on my channel, on YouTube I have all the replays of this show, plus I have all my other things I've done. There's probably 1,500 videos out there now on my own YouTube channel. So if you want to dive in deep, go check out my YouTube channel.
And we'd love for you to watch us live if you would be interested. We're right here on Pacific time at 1 o'clock, and then Eastern time on 4 o'clock, and anytime in between. And then if you want to watch the replays, you can watch us on YouTube, period, on Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry, or on Roku. But if you don't want to look at our cute faces and just want to listen to us while you're out and about, how do they do that, Barry?
Well, you'd rather listen to us because you may be in a place where you can look at us on screen because you're driving or in a meeting, something like that. Our show is also put up on the podcast platform. So if you've got Apple Podcasts or Spotify or anywhere you listen to podcasts, you listen to our shows. You can binge and listen to all of our shows. There's 200 plus episodes we've done over the last 4.5 years. That will give you plenty of content to think about and some clarity and direction on your next dating experiences and adventures, and learning how to date more effectively, more powerfully. So definitely check us out either in audio or video formats.
And whether you watch us or listen to us, we'd be so grateful if you would like us and give us a review and share it with your friends who are having dating and relationship challenges in their lives.
Exactly.
And we'll be back next week with another interesting subject on Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry. Bye for now.
See you then.